Namaste, everyone. Our online classes has been going on for the last 3 to 4 months. We are indeed grateful to Swamiji for leading us in this path of knowledge. Swamiji has taken us Pradasmaranam, Gayatri Mandram, Nirvana Shatkam. On this auspicious day of the Saraswati Puja, Saraswati is the goddess of knowledge. We are really blessed with the Ishvara Kripa and Guru Kripa so that we are getting a chance to study a very significant suktam from Shukla Yajurveda, namely Shiva Sankalpa Suktam. Shiva Sankalpa Suktam, Shiva Sankalpa means auspicious thoughts. In other words, positive thinking. This sukta, study of sukta is of utmost significance in the present scenario. Not only that, it is the only way to face the ongoing pandemic situation and the post-pandemic situation very much. This Suktam, Shiva Sankalpa Suktam, comes in the Vajasaneyi Samhita of the Madhyandina Shukla Yajurveda Samhita. It consists of 6 mantras together called Shiva Sankalpa Sukta. Puja Swamiji has written a small text as Yajna Prasadam, namely Shiva Sankalpa Sukta. That is in Malayalam, and Bangalore Satsang Group had translated that also into English. And those who want to have it, please contact. As the Parampara tradition, the Guru imparts the supreme knowledge to the disciple. And thus, the Parampara, the tradition continues. And through these online classes, we are also doing the same. On this auspicious day, we wish to offer our Dakshina with Shraddha and devotion to Puja Swamiji. Swamiji, kindly accept our Dakshina and bless us. Today, Yogacharya Venudasji is going to sing a Saraswati Stuti, followed by the Shiva Sankalpam chanting by Arun Nambishan. Namaste.
Manikyaveelam upalayantim Madalasam manjulavagvinasam Mahendra Neeladviti Komalangi Madanga Kanya Manasa Smara Chaturbhuje Chandrakala Vatamse Kuchonate Kungumaraga Shone पुण्ड्रेक्षु पाशाङ्कुश पुष्पबाणहस्ते नमस्ते 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 जगते कमातः।
ॐ यच्चाग्रतो दूरमुदैति दैवं तदु सुप्तस्य तथैवैति दूरं गमं ज्योतिषां ज्योतिरेकं तन्मे मनः शिवसङ्कल्पमस्तु। ॐ येन कर्माण्यपसो मनीषिणो यज्ञे कृण्वन्ति विदतेषु धीराः यदपूर्वं यक्षमन्द प्रजानां तन्मे मनः शिवसङ्कल्पमस्तु। ॐ यत् प्रज्ञानमुदचेदो धृधिश्च यच्चोदिरन्दरमृदं प्रजासु यस्मानरुते किञ्चन कर्म क्रियते तन्मे मनः शिवसङ्कल्पमस्तु। येनेदं भूतं भुवनं भविष्यत् परिगृहीतम् अमृतेन सर्वम् येन यज्ञस्तायते सप्तहोता तन्मे मनः शिवसङ्कल्पमस्तु। ॐ यस्मिन् ऋजः सामयजूषि यस्मिन् प्रतिष्ठिता रत्ना भाविवाराः यस्मिन् चित्तं सर्वमोदं प्रजानां तन्मे मनः शिवसङ्कल्पमस्तु। ॐ सुषारदिरस्वानिव यन्मनुष्या नेनीयते भीषुभिर्वाजिनैव हृत्प्रदिष्टं यदजिरं झविष्टं तन्मे शिवसङ्कल्पस्तु। तन्मे मनः शिवसङ्कल्पमस्तु। तन्मे मनः शिवसङ्कल्पमस्तु। तन्मे मनः शिवसङ्कल्पमस्तु।
ॐ गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। ॐ सदाशिवसमारम्भाम् शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्ताम् वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। In this satsanga, we are going to discuss Shiva Sankalpa Sukta. Earlier we have seen Pratasmarana Stotram of Bhagavan Bhashyakara Shankaracharya. Then about Gayatri Mantra we have discussed. Based on Nirvana Shatkam of Bhagavan Bhashyakara, we had a discussion on the basic tenets of Vedanta Shastra. Today, we are trying to see one important sukta, which is a part of Shukla Yajurveda, called Shiva Sankalpa Sukta. Shivam means auspicious or auspiciousness, most sacred, and in the highest sense, the meaning of Shivam is the absolute reality. That is Paramatma. And the word Shiva is used in all genders. In the masculine, it is the name of Lord Shiva, who is the protector of the universe. And in the feminine gender, it is Shiva, Devata, again the protector of the whole universe. And when we are taking it in the neutral, it is Shivam, means Paramatma, Brahma, the ultimate reality, the ultimate knowledge, the ultimate bliss. This is in the highest sense. And the most common meaning of the word Shiva is auspicious or auspiciousness. Sankalpa is thought. Sankalpa is conviction. Sankalpa is determination. In all these senses, we can use the word Sankalpa. Suktam, the word meaning, the literal meaning of the word Suktam is well said. That is said or described in the best way. Sushtu Uktam. Sushtu Uktam, Suktam. Sushtu is a prefix used to mean in the best way, well, best, etc. Uktam is what is said. Uktam, what is said. So what is said in the best way is Suktam. This is in the wordly meaning or the wordly sense. In the Veda, there are many mantras in the Veda. Many mantras are there. And through each and every mantra, many ideas will be conveyed. Many devatas praised. Many aspects of many aspects of life discussed. Many secrets of the universal phenomena revealed. There are many mantras. And when a particular topic, the topic can be anything. For example, it can be a piece of stuti, that is praising a particular devata. Or it can be a specific teaching. It can be one aspect of the universal phenomena discussed or taught. Whatever it be, when a particular topic is discussed, it constitutes a suktam. It constitutes a suktam. And there are many suktams in the Veda. Some suktams are in one mantra, and there are suktams with many mantras within that. The idea is a particular idea will be conveyed through a suktam. As we have seen earlier, it can be a devata stuti. Suppose it is a devata stuti. So when a suktam is completed, that stuti also will be completed. Or if it is imparting a particular message or a teaching, giving a teaching, then through that sukta, that particular teaching will be completed. So that is sukta. There are some suktas having only one mantra within it. There are many suktas having tens or hundreds of mantras. And according to the difference in the version, that is patha, there are differences in the number of mantra in a sukta. For example, take the sutra which is being repeated or which makes part of the whole Veda. That is Purusha Sukta. In the Rigveda we can see Purusha Sukta. In the Yajurveda we can have it. In the Samaveda we can have it. And as far as I know, in the Atharva Veda also there is Purusha Sukta. So in all the Vedas, Purusha Sukta is there. But there are differences in the number of mantras. There are differences in the order of mantras. And there are differences in some mantras itself. So, suktas differs. This Shiva Sankalpa Sukta, this Sukta we get in the Shukla Yajurveda. That is in the Vajasaneyi Samhita of Shukla Yajurveda. Within the Shukla Yajurveda itself, there are many shakhas, many branches. There are many branches. And this version, which we are going to see, is a version we are getting in the Madhyandina Shakha. Madhyandina Shakha of Shukla Yajurveda. For this Madhyandina Shakha, great scholars like Uvadacharya, Mahidharacharya, and of course Sayanacharya have written Vyakhyas, commentaries. All these are known by the name Bhashyas. Uvada Bhashyam, Mahidhara Bhashyam, Sayana Bhashyam. All these are Bhashyams. So in the Bhashyam of, or with the Bhashyam of Uvada and Mahidhara, we can have this Shiva Sankalpa Sukta. So this is a part of Shukla Yajurveda. Those who are attending this class, this satsanga, there are many who knows much about the Vedic literature. And of course, there will be many who are not that much well versed with the topic. I'm not going to explain, but still, with a small piece of introduction, we can enter into this sukta. Veda is the very base of Sanatana Dharma, and is the oldest literature of the world. As has been discussed by or written by Manu, Vedokhilo Dharma Moolam. Veda is the very root or very base of a dharma. It is the foundation. Veda is the foundation on which the system of dharma is staying. It is the very base. It is the foundation. And Sanatana Dharma with all its aspects, teachings, practices, everything. There are many, many aspects of dharma which we cannot see in the Veda. There are many aspects. For example, there are the traditions which came from the lineage of Guru Shishya Parampara, well protected by the teachings which are not even written. Such parts are there in the Sanatana Dharma. And in the worship patterns we adopt, there are methods or there are branches like Vamachara, then Dakshinachara, etc. in the Kaula tradition of the Shakteya system. And in the Shaiva system, there are many, many, many branches. Many sampradayas are there. And within Vaishnava system, again, there are many, many sampradayas. All these together constitute the Sanatana Dharma. All these together constitute Sanatana Dharma. All these have a place in the edifice of Sanatana Dharma. There are no contradictions. There are sattvic, there are rajasic, there are tamasic ways of worship. One is entirely different from the other. Differences are there. Of course, differences are there. All these are like different ways to the same goal. And these differences are acceptable, according to the changes in our or differences in our guna structure. There are many. But even though there are many, many systems, when we are viewing from the external world, analyzing the external aspects, we may think these are contradicting. But really, there is no contradiction at all. There are differences. Differences are there. So this whole, the whole edifice of Sanatana Dharma is built on the very foundation of Veda. There is no doubt in that. And by the word Veda, wisdom is meant. Absolute knowledge is meant. Meaning of Veda is knowledge, wisdom. And when we take the meaning so, that is as knowledge, it is not made by any person. That is, Veda as knowledge is not a personal thing. It is purely impersonal. Because knowledge is there. Nobody is creating knowledge. Knowledge is not created by anybody. Knowledge is there. But in course of time, we are discovering that knowledge. That is the knowledge which is already there, which was already there, but was covered by the veil of ignorance. We are discovering. And through discovering, we are realizing that. We are getting that knowledge. We are making it a part of our own constitution or our own individuality. Those who are discovering this knowledge, they are called rishis. They are rishis. Rishis are not writing mantras. Rishis are not making mantras. They are discovering mantras. They are discovering Veda. And out of pure inner love and compassion, compassion to the whole world, those rishis who had that realization within them, had discovered the truth. Out of their compassion, they taught unto the world. They exhorted to the world. And when they start teaching their own knowledge, the knowledge they have realized, when they teach that to the world, then different mantras come into existence. And these mantras, they are taught by different rishis and therefore known by the name of different rishis. There are many rishis in the Vedic literature. Many rishis are there. So they have realized, and out of compassion, they taught to the world. But they have realized. So this knowledge which is really impersonal, having no connection with any person, which is already there, when realized and taught to the world by certain rishis, then it will be known by the name of that particular rishi. So, Veda, when we take it as to mean knowledge, have nothing to do with the persons. And Veda, when we take it as a collection of teachings or revelations of different rishis, then we will connect these mantras to rishis. So we can take Veda both as Paurushaya and Apaurushaya. Paurushaya is personal. Apaurushaya is impersonal. When we are taking Veda as knowledge, it is impersonal. When we are taking the Veda as mantras, the teachings, then it is personal. These teachings are categorized into different categories based on the methodology or the method adopted by rishis. And therefore, in that level, we have Rigveda, we have Yajurveda, we have Samaveda, and of course, Atharva Veda. And in course of time, when many teachers started teaching or imparting this knowledge to their disciples or unto the world at large, many branches came into existence. And there were many branches. For example, as per the saying of Muktika Upanishad, there were 1180 branches there in the Vedas. According to Bhagavan Patanjali, the number of branches are around 1129. So 50 branches are lesser. So many branches were there. Each and every branch is a version of the same Veda. And these branches are known by the name of rishis who spread that, who propagated that. So, branch is known by the name of the rishi. But don't take this as a rule, because all the branches are known by the name of the Rishi. There is no such a rule. There is no such a rule. For example, the Shiva Sankalpa Suktam, which we are going to learn, is a part of the Madhyandina Shakha. The name Madhyandina is not the name of a Rishi. Mainly branches are known by the name of Rishis. Rishis who discovered or who propagated that particular version of the Veda. And see, within Yajurveda itself, there are two divisions, Shukla Yajurveda and Krishna Yajurveda. There are two divisions. In the Vishnu Purana, which is one of the major Puranas, that is a part of the Mahapuranas. In the Vishnu Purana, we can see a story which says how these two branches came into existence. And the same story is repeated in many places, even in the Bhashyas. Bhashya means not the Shankara Bhashya, but the Veda Bhashyas, written by many scholars. The same story, with some changes, some differences. We are not going to explain such stories now, but still, for a basic knowledge, we can see how it is discussed in the Vishnu Purana. It is said, sage Vaishambhayana was teaching. Yajurveda, and he had many disciples, and one among them was Yajnavalkya. In those days, there was a custom that scholars will unite together, assemble together, and have discussions on the Shastras. And when such a Shastrartha is decided to be convened, all scholars must go there and assemble, and must be a part of that. And at regular intervals, there will be such Shastrarthas, Vidvat Parishad, assemblage of scholars. So there was a Vidvat Sabha, and somehow say Yajnavalkya couldn't attend that. He could not go there. And as he could not go there, sin came in the form of Brahmahatya. Somehow, Brahmahatya came. And when Brahmahatya came to Vaishampayana, all the Shishyas were asked to do certain rituals to clean or to get rid of that Brahmahatya. Then Yajnavalkya was considering himself as a great man. He asked, why should all these people do such rituals and austerities? I will do everything for my Guru. I can clean him from this Brahmahatya. So let others do their own work. I alone will do everything needed to clean my Guru. So when Yajnavalkya said this, it was against the interest of other disciples. It will hurt them. There is no doubt in that. Even if such words are uttered with a positive thought within, it is not good. Because Guru is accepting all the disciples equally. Even if there is one disciple who is more powerful, Guru cannot consider him specially. So, this Vaishampayana shouted, if you are this much arrogant, you are not my disciple. You can get out. Then Yajnavalkya reacted. He retorted back. If you are getting this much anger and shouting, you are not my Guru. Then Vaishampayana asked him to leave the place and don't take the knowledge which you got from here. Then it is said in the Puranic language, this Yajnavalkya vomited the knowledge he got from Vaishampayana and went away. And he started doing tapasya, much austerities. He continuously meditated on Surya Bhagavan, and finally Surya Bhagavan appeared before him. And as a boon, Yajnavalkya asked for Yajurveda. And taking the form of a horse, Surya Bhagavan imparted Yajurveda to Yajnavalkya. And so there are two Yajurvedas which was there from the very beginning, and the new Yajurveda taught by Surya. The first is called Krishna Yajurveda and the second Shukla Yajurveda. This is a story. After all, this is a story. But the story is a part of Purana, Vishnu Purana. We can leave the story. But the fact remains the same. There are two versions or two branches, one Krishna Yajurveda and the other Shukla Yajurveda. And in both these, there are Samhitas, there are Brahmanas, there are Aranyakas, and there are Upanishads. Like in all other Vedas, there are Samhitas. Samhitas are collections of Devadastutis. And Brahmanas are connected with rituals, how to do rituals. That is the subject matter of Brahmanas. And Upanishads are piece of highest thought. That is highest thought regarding the absolute reality. What is my real nature? What is the absolute truth? That is the subject matter of Upanishads. So, as in other Vedas, in the Shukla Yajurveda and Krishna Yajurveda, there are Samhitas, Brahmanas, and Upanishads, Aranyakas. All these parts are there. All these parts are there. And Krishna Yajurveda is rather bigger in size. And Shukla Yajurveda Samhita is comparatively smaller, having only 40 chapters. And within this Shukla Yajurveda Samhita, there are many topics discussed. For example, Ashwamedha. Such yagas are explained in the Shukla Yajurveda. And within that Samhita of Shukla Yajurveda, there is this particular sukta named Shiva Sankalpa Sukta. So this is a part of Shukla Yajurveda. Vedam is also called Amnayam. Another word for Vedam is Nigamam. Another name is Agamam. So many names are there for Veda. And the most commonly used word is Shruti. So this is a part of the Shruti, which is the very, very foundation of Sanatana Dharma. And this Suktam, having only six mantras in that Suktam, clearly conveys a message to the whole humanity to make our own mind pure, fill the mind with auspicious thoughts, and how we are keeping our own mind, so will be our experiences in the world. The world we are seeing is a revelation of the mind. The world we are experiencing around is a projection of our mind. And therefore, Bhagavan says in the Gita, Yoyat Shraddha Sayevasa. Yoyat Shraddha Sayevasa. What our conviction is, so will be his individuality. What our conviction is, so will be our individuality. That is what makes our individuality. It is the conviction, it is the thought. Or we can say it is the mind. Mind makes a person. Mind makes an individual. So, our mind must be pure, clear. Our mind must be filled with auspicious thoughts. If we are making it pure and clear, if we are filling our mind with auspicious thoughts, the experience we will have in this world will be auspicious. There is no doubt in that. If the glass I am wearing is clear, the world I see around me will be clear also. If there are coverings, the world I am experiencing will also be covered. So, to have success in life, to have a clear vision, to have a peaceful life, to reach the goal of life or goal in this life, for everything, the first essential requisite is our mind must be clear and pure, and it must be filled with auspicious thoughts. Here in this sukta, it is repeatedly prayed for. Repeatedly it is prayed for. Let my mind be pure. Let my mind be filled with auspicious thoughts. This is the one prayer repeated in all the 6 mantras in the sukta. And therefore this is called Shiva Sankalpa Sukta. For every suktas, there will be different devatas. There will be different devatas. And the devata of this sukta is mind, manaha. Manaha is the devata of the sukta. Because the prayer for a pure mind is repeated in all the mantras. The devata of the sukta is mind. Mano devatyaha. So this is the first work for us. Keep the mind pure and clear. Fill the mind with auspicious thoughts. If we are doing this, we will have a happy life, and our relations with others will also be pure and straightforward. Not only that, we will reach the highest goal of our life in this very birth itself. So, in the transactional world and in the highest endeavor, both these aspects, keeping the mind pure and clear and filling the mind with auspicious thoughts, is imperative. And this is repeatedly taught in this sukta. So we can take these mantras one after another, and when we learn all the 6 mantras, we will have a clear picture of the sukta and the message given by the Rishi. Yes, we can start in our next sitting. Today, this is the most auspicious day of Mahanavami. Morning, it was Ashtami, and now it is Navami. The most important days of Navaratri, that is Ashtami, Navami and Dashami. Dashami is not a part of Navaratri, but we are preparing. We are preparing through our austerities, practices, rituals, worships, and the like, to have that Vijaya in our life. So through Navaratri, we are preparing ourselves to welcome Vijayadashami. Vijayadashami is the moment of victory. It is a moment of victory. To have that in our life, we must have Mahadevi within us. We must have Mahalakshmi within us. And we must have Mahasaraswati within us. When these forms of Mahadevi are there within us, then only we will have victory in the individual level and in the social level. So let us work for that. Let us pray for that. Let us think for that. And let this Navaratri be an occasion to have that real power within us. So do Parayanas, do mantra upasanas, and have that bhava within, which will invite the highest Shakti into our being. Namaste. Namaste.
Namaste, Swamiji. Today's first question is from Rajini Ji. Please unmute and ask.
Namaste, Swamiji.
Namaste. Namaste.
My question is from Bhagavad Gita in chapter 9, shloka 4 and 5. In shloka 4, Bhagavan says Matsthani Sarva Bhutani, and in shloka 5 he says Nacha Matsyani Sarva Bhutani. So this kind of contradictory, can you please explain what it exactly means?
See, there is no contradiction at all. When we are looking from outside to the words used in that teaching, of course there are contradictions. But see, this is a part from the 9th adhyaya, 9th chapter, which is called Raja Vidya, the king of knowledge. Raja Guhyam, the king of secrets. So the knowledge imparted through this chapter is the highest knowledge. And so, to understand the real import of the teaching, we have to travel with the Bhagavan. We have to walk with Bhagavan. And only if we are walking with Bhagavan from the 2nd chapter to the 8th chapter, yes, from the 2nd chapter to the 8th chapter, we have to walk with Bhagavan. Then only we can understand, or we will be in a position to understand the real meaning of the 9th chapter. There, Bhagavan is saying, Maya tadamidam sarvam jagad avyakta murtina matsthani sarva bhutani pashyame yogam aishwaram. Nacha matsthani bhutani pashyame yogam aishwaram. This pashyame yogam aishwaram we can connect with both these. Pashyame yogam aishwaram. You behold how I am. See? In the 4th shloka, it is said, Maya tatamidam sarvam jagad avyakta murtina matsthani sarva bhutani na chaham teshu avasthitaha na cha matsthani bhutani pashyame yogam aishwaram. What is that? Maya tadamidam sarvam jagad avyakta murtina. Idam jagat. Idam sarvam. Idam sarvam jagat. Idam means this. Jagat means the universe which is moving. What is the movement of the universe? Having birth, having existence, having growth, having changes, having decay, having death. So having all these 6 bhavas from birth to death, that is the Jagat. Sarva means the whole. The whole. So idam sarvam jagat means this whole universe. These whole manifestations. These are maya tatam. Maya means by me. Tatam means interwoven. Interwoven. So the whole universe, all these manifestations are interwoven by me. All these are there because I am, or because of me, all these existences are there. I am the existence absolute, which is giving existence to all these manifestations. Maya tatamidam sarvam. And who am I? It is said avyakta murti. Avyakta murtina means by avyakta murti. Avyakta murtina means by the avyakta murti. And avyakta murti is whose murti is avyakta, unmanifest. So I am the unmanifest or unmanifested. So by me, who is not at all in the manifested level, the unmanifest existence, the whole manifestations are there. Because of me, who is really not manifested, because of me, the manifest existence, all the world, all the universe exist, are existing, and will exist. So everything is interwoven by me, who is the unmanifest reality. Maya tadamidam sarvam jagad avyakta murtina matsthani sarvabhutani. All beings, sarvabhutani, all beings are existing in me. Matsthani sarvabhutani. All beings are existing in me because I am the existence absolute, and because of me all these beings are there. Therefore it is said all beings are manifesting in me. Masthani sarvabhutani. Na chaham teshu avastitaha. Na chaham teshu avastitaha. I am not residing in them. I am not residing in them. Na chaham teshu avastitaha. See, everything is existing in the existence absolute. And the existence absolute is not limited by any manifestation. Let me repeat once more. All the beings, whether movable or immovable, all the beings are existing in the existence absolute. But at the same time, the existence absolute is not at all limited by any limited being. See, so it is said, Mastani sarva bhutani na chaham teshu avastitaha. Na cha mastani bhutani. Now see, in the fourth shloka, it was said, Mastani sarva bhutani. All beings are staying in me. And now it is negated. Nacha mastani bhutani. Nacha mastani bhutani. No being is residing in me. See, in the fourth shloka, it is said, all beings are residing in me, or all beings are existing in me. And now it is negated, no being is existing in me, because there is no difference at all. No being can make limitedness in me. I am not limited by any manifestation. See, when we say all beings are existing in the reality or in the absolute existence, we may think there are differences between the substratum, which is the absolute existence, and that which is staying or which are staying in that or on that. No such differences are there, because the existence being the same, there is no difference as that is residing and the base of that. No. So all these differences are there when we observe from the physical plane, from the external world. Really speaking, there is no difference. There are no differences. So all the beings are residing, or all the beings are existing in the existence absolute, but at the same time, that existence absolute is not limited or made limited by any being. Nacha mastani bhutani. No being is staying in me, because I am the existence absolute, which is one without a second. Pasyame yogam aishwaram. See my greatness. Bhuta bhrud nacha bhutastaha. Bhuta bhrud. I am the very base of all existences, and at the same time, nacha bhutastaha. And I am not limited by any bhuta, any being. So, when we analyze from this highest plane, there is no contradiction at all. But verbally, if we are taking these two shlokas, there are only contradictions, full of contradictions. But when we are taking the sense of the teaching, there is no contradiction, because these are in different levels, or this shows the different levels. One, tasya bhasa sarvamidam vibhati. Because of that existence, everything else exists. All the manifestations in this phenomenal plane are existing because of that existence absolute. And so, we can say all the beings are existing in him. At the same time, that existence absolute is not at all limited by any manifestation. So nacha matsani bhutani. So these are two levels or two angles of the same reality. And Bhagavan Bhashyakara is very clear here in these Bhashyas. So please try to learn these two shlokas with the help of Shankara Bhashya. Then there will be no doubt at all. Namaste.
Namaste, namaste, Swamiji.
Namaste.
In this, can we then take a look at it from the point of view that the fourth shloka is from the point of view of a seeker, and the fifth is from the point of view of an enlightened person who has seen there's no difference?
Of course, we can take in that line also. See, when we are going deep into Shastras, especially Vedanta Shastras, we can take the meanings in different levels and different senses. The only thing is, we must not contradict to the essential teaching of the basic teaching of the Veda. That is the only one thing. So we can have different commentaries. We can take different levels. From different angles we can give meanings. We have that freedom. But the thing is, we must not contradict to the very basic teaching of the Veda. So of course, we can take in that sense also. But Bhagavan is instructing from that highest level. For a seeker, he is teaching, and then from the higher level, he is negating the same teaching. Of course, that also is a good explanation. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you very much.
Namaste.
Next question is from Dr. Kamalaji.
Namaste, Swamiji.
Namaste.
Last week, actually, Venudasji has asked one question, and Swamiji said Swamiji will get the book and answer
What was
that.
that? I forgot
remind
that. Oh, I forgot that.
Yeah. So can I ask my question?
Yeah.
In the 10th chapter, Vibhuti Yoga, when Bhagavan says about the Saptarishis and Manasa Putras, how do we understand them?
See, it is a concept. It is a concept well accepted in the Vedic lore. That is, in each kalpa, all beings will come into existence. And by the end of kalpa, all these beings will again get dissolved. So these manifestations and dissolutions happens repeatedly in each and every kalpa. And in the beginning of each kalpa, rishis who are responsible for the propagation of the twofold system of dharma. Twofold means the pravritti lakshana and nivritti lakshana. So those rishis who are responsible for the propagation of pravritti dharma and nivritti dharma, they will come into existence. those who are responsible for the nivritti, like Sanaka, Sanandana, Sanatana, and Sanat Kumara, such rishis, and those who are responsible for the propagation of pravritti dharma, like Prajapatis and other rishis, like Krado, Pulaha, Pulastya, Angiras, and all. All these rishis, they will manifest. Manifest from where? Manifest from the causal state or the subtle state. The subtle state. From that subtle state, they will be manifested into the grosser plane. This happens. And to explain that in a language which can be assimilated by a common man, it will be said, Brahmanaha manasaha jataha, manasaputraha. That is from the thoughts of Brahma. These rishis will come. What is meant by the thoughts of the Brahma? See how things were in the Purva Kalpa. That is the prior Kalpa. And what subtle samskaras are there to be manifested again in this Kalpa. All these things will be revealed to Brahma. And this revelation, and that comes from the tapas Brahma did. Let me repeat once again. These revelations comes as the effect of the tapas which Brahma did. That is explained as Manasaputraha. So from that subtle form, they will come to the grosser level. And again, the cycle repeats. This is a very intricate subject. So, for a common man to understand, it will be explained as Brahmanaha, Manasaha, Putraha. So, all these beings, they will come as Manasa Putras of Brahma. That is, from the subtle level, which were there in the subtle form, they will be manifested. And the system of dharma will be going on. This is happening in the beginning of all the kalpas. It is not the case with the Saptarshis. It is not the case with other rishis like Sanaka, Sanandana. But even with the sun, the moon, etc., the same thing happens. We must not take this in the physical sense, because in the physical sense there will be many explanations. But the point is, what was there in the subtle form or in the causal form in the previous kalpa, the next kalpa, they will be manifested. So, when we take them also, that is when we take it as the Manasa Putra of Brahma, that too are coming from me. Bhagavan says, Madbhavaha, Madbhavaha, Manasa Jataha, Yesham Loke Ima Prajaha. All these prajas are the product of these twofold dharma. And Brahma himself is my putra. Brahma himself, he manifested from me. All the Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva, all these are manifestations of the Supreme Reality. So from that, the chain goes. This is a very intricate subject. We have to have a clear idea regarding this. I think we can continue this topic in our next sitting. Namaste. Namaste.
Namaste.
Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.